Hello, my friend and earthly neighbor, and welcome to another fabulous week in the month I call Rocktober. And last week we were rocked. We had a full moon in Aries, which in my opinion was the turning point between an old ego attachment and a new life of balance. And this week, Jupiter moves into Scorpio for the first time in 12 years. From my smartphone to yours, capturing now in Denver, Colorado, this is your weekly Namaste Today. Welcome to Namaste Today, a spiritual way to start your day. I'm your host and spiritual life coach, Sensei Christopher Witecki. Welcome back, my friend. Namaste. Well, as you can see, I am in a temporary set here in Denver, Colorado. We've gone through a lot of changes, me included. We are now moving on to the third decan of the sun in Libra, and this week, Jupiter moves into Scorpio. So in our upcoming segment this week, I'm going to talk about what's rocking you up until October 13th, Friday the 13th. And later in our tea time, I'm going to go over all 12 signs for what Jupiter and Scorpio means. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Monday, October 9th to Friday, October 13th. Looking at your 5-day mood cast. Well, looking at the week at a glance, it's a little bipolar. It's down, up, down, up, down. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's cloudy and intuitive. The moon will be in Gemini, and spiritual energy is bringing you new lessons. On Tuesday, it's sunny and certain. You'll be able to make decisions for how to maintain your balance and harmony. On Wednesday, it's cloudy with a chance of anxiety, as the moon moves into wobbly Cancer and makes us all a bit more emotional. On Thursday, it's sunny and manifesting as you hold space for your new harmony and balance. And then on Friday the 13th, it's cloudy and passionate as the moon moves into Leo. So as you can see, this week is going to be a little bipolar. In our upcoming segment this week, I'm going to walk you through each day. Taking a sneak peek at the upcoming week, I coined this week Manifesting Harmony. And thank Goddess for that, because 2017, in my opinion, has been anything but harmonious. It actually started way back in February when the sun went into Pisces. It was at that time where the universe was calling for us to step out of the karma we were born to. That means the pain, the issues of your childhood, any past life residue, and ascend to a higher spiritual level. Easier said than done, though, because the rest of our soul had to follow. In the sun in Aries, we had to recorrect our egos. In the sun in Taurus, we had to update our values to this new karmic ascension. When the sun went into Gemini, we had to correct our attitude. When the sun moved into Cancer, we had to flush through all the emotions of that. And then we had the great American solar eclipse in Leo. And that eclipse was incredibly powerful. Now that I'm on the air talking about it in the aftermath, that eclipse for me expanded my heart like tremendously. I became so much more sensitive than I normally have been in the past. Sensitive empathically, and my heart also became like more sensitive as well. I suddenly became very lonely for my son, lonely for my family. It really got kind of harsh, actually. In fact, when the sun went into Virgo, the harshness of reality really kind of struck down. And it wasn't until the sun moved into Libra in mid-September that we began to restore balance and harmony in our life. And that's actually when I decided to come back to Denver, because California for me was just too much energy. Couldn't take it anymore. So since we moved into Libra, the beginning was pretty tough. We had to find and rebalance our relationship to ourselves in the first 2 weeks. And it wasn't until the last week when we had the full moon in Aries that I believe we had a real turning point. We turned a corner. We detached from an old ego, and we attach to a new ego and a new sense of inner harmony and balance. So the whole year has just been up and down, and it's only this week, in my opinion, that we'll begin to manifest our actual harmony. In other words, we will stay calm, we will wake up calm, and we will build from this calm sort of foundation. And ironically, as soon as we manifest the harmony, Jupiter moves into Scorpio for the first time in 12 years. Now, I think this is a positive thing, and I'm going to talk about it in the tea time, but I feel like the universe is really just not giving us a break, frankly. So let me walk you through the week so you can go through it like a pro, and we will start with Monday, which is cloudy and intuitive. So on Monday, step 7 rules the day. Jupiter is at step 29. So in this full week before the Jupiter moves into Scorpio, we are in the tested step of step 29, which means all of the work you've done for your balance and harmony will be tested. That also means relationships will be tested. That's something I haven't talked a lot about, but there are a lot of relationships changing on the planet. I've been hearing from my subscribers, I've been hearing from viewers in comments, and also in personal readings. Many people are making big relationship changes. So on Monday, it's cloudy, intuitive. This is the day really to pray, to do your spiritual work. The moon will be in Gemini, so it's a good day to have a conversation in a relationship with someone if you need to, and you'll probably get the answers you're seeking on Monday. But don't expect too much outer world progress on Monday because the planets really are kind of quiet, to be honest. On Tuesday, it's sunny and certain. Saturn rules the day. I think you'll finally be able to make some decisions about what it will take to restore harmony and balance in your life. I also think that if you're having relationship issues, Tuesday will be the day that you're clear and you can make a decision. Tuesday may also be the day that you want to announce your decision because the moon is in Gemini and you'll be in a better place to articulate your feelings on Tuesday. On Wednesday, it's cloudy with a chance of anxiety, and this is for a couple reasons. On the one hand, the moon moves into Cancer, so we're going to start to have all of our emotions catch up with this. You know, the sun in Libra is a very heady, intellectual air sign, and so a lot of the work that we do is really through our thoughts and not through our emotions. So when the moon hits Cancer, suddenly all the emotions of those relationships sort of hit you. And at the same time, Mars is ruling the day, so it's a day where you're going to feel pushed to move forward. So Wednesday may cause a little anxiety. Wednesday is also the day that Jupiter is fully in Scorpio, and Jupiter will be at step 0 Scorpio, the Grand Master step of Scorpio, and that will be us holding space for these new changes. Okay, so Wednesday, a little anxiety. Thursday, sunny and manifesting. So this is the day where you kind of have to hold faith, all right? Move forward with whatever your changes are to restore balance in your life. Move forward with relationship changes if you haven't so far. But realize you're not going to see any results right off the bat. You have to hold space on Thursday. Mercury will be at step 22, which means your mind will finally have some sort of a breakthrough and an understanding. Mercury is now ahead of the sun, so we're now starting to think ahead and think for our future. And on Thursday, Saturn hits step 23 Sagittarius. Now, Saturn has been at step 22 since the end of September. And step 22 is really kind of a radical step. In fact, it was during step 22 that we had the shootings in Vegas, for instance, and it was during step 22 that I myself was finding breakdown in my personal story and the life I want to live. So I know everyone was going through it. The good news is on Thursday, Saturn finally hit step 23, which means you'll have an answer or you'll have a big picture understanding of what's going to happen next in the story you were born to live. And then on Friday the 13th, it does look to be a little spooky, to be honest. Step 20 rules the day, which means we get very passionate. I think it'll be overcast because step 20 is a very sensitive step. People get very vulnerable in step 20. At the same time, the moon moves into Leo, so we begin to feel our heart's desires and all those intentions that we set during the Great American Solar Eclipse. So Friday will be kind of spooky in a classic Halloween sort of way, but by Saturday, you will be sunny and joyful, and there will be breakthrough. So as you can hear, this week is really about coming into your terms of understanding, making your decisions about what will take for your balance and your harmony, and moving forward those decisions. And after you move forward, you have to hold space. But of course, we have another dynamic happening this week, and that is Jupiter in Scorpio. So go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is Jupiter in Scorpio. And since I have to hold a handheld mic here in the temporary studio, I'm going to put my teacup down if you don't mind. It's just a little cute prop. Well, in today's tea time, I want to talk about Jupiter moving to Scorpio. This is a big deal, actually. I remember the last time Jupiter moved in Scorpio. It was the autumn of 2005. So you might throw back to your life in 2005 and ask yourself, what sort of changes did you make in your emotional comfort zones and your personal boundaries during that year? Now, for myself, I recall it quite vividly. I made profound changes. 2005, in the autumn, was the first time that I began to broadcast my soul horoscopes. That for me, it was the first time I was on camera. I used to be behind the camera. It was the first time that I was working for myself and not having a full-time job. It was a lot of emotional boundaries that I had to overcome. And of course, there was a lot of sense of needing to protect ourselves. And that's the thing with Jupiter and Scorpio. The thing is that you'll find that most people in the world suddenly have a shift in what they're emotionally comfortable with. So for instance, here in the United States, we've been going through a lot of terrorism, right? Lots of changes, lots of things where pretty much you've seen people complaining on Facebook, but you've seen the conservatives stay conservative, you've seen the Democrats stay very liberal, and you haven't seen really people change their emotional opinion on things. When Jupiter moves into Scorpio, I'd be willing to bet that people will say enough is enough. You're going to see a lot of lines drawn, you're going to see people closing doors that used to be open, and in some cases you're going to see people open up to things, just like I opened up to being on camera and opened up to working for myself instead of for an employer. So what I want to do is talk you through all 12 signs of where Jupiter is going to make changes. I'm going to tell you where Jupiter was in Libra, and I'm going to tell you where Jupiter is moving into Scorpio and what you're working on. And because it's Jupiter, one of the outer planets, you probably want to pay attention to both your sun sign and your rising sign for this segment. So as always, let's begin with our Aries. Aries in the last year with Jupiter and Libra have been expanding their relationships. And I actually have many Aries clients, and they have been going through a lot of turmoil in their marriage and partnerships. And this week, as Jupiter finally leaves Libra and we manifest our harmony, Aries are going to finally come to terms of where they need to be in relationships and how they need to treat themselves. And remember, how you treat yourself is the way the world treats you. When Jupiter moves into Scorpio, it'll be Aries, as usual. They're always the first one to do something because they're the purebreds. Aries will be the ones probably drawing lines, closing doors, and opening doors for the first time in some cases, like I did with being on camera. You'll also be working on trust issues and intimacy issues as well. So if Aries have been too open, you'll see them shut down. If you see them be too shut down, they'll start to open up. And for the next year, Aries will be getting closer to themselves and closer to others. In fact, Aries will probably transform their shape, their look, what they do in the next year. Tauruses. For the last year, Tauruses have been working on their health and their daily lifestyle. And that was totally true for me because when Jupiter entered Libra, I got pneumonia. Okay. And then 1 year later, when Jupiter, at the end here, I decided to relocate to another state. So total lifestyle change and the way they work day to day. Now that Jupiter is moving into Scorpio, Tauruses are going to work on their relationship to themselves, like I did in 2005, getting more proud of myself and courageous to get on camera. And they're going to develop and expand their long-term relationships. So a lot of Tauruses will be ending relationships. A lot of Tauruses will be beginning relationships in the next year. Gemini. Geminis for the last year are getting closer to their heart and their personal dreams. So they've been expanding their definition of what romance and love can be. Some Geminis might have decided to have children because that's the highest form of creativity you can do. As Jupiter moves into Scorpio, Geminis will spend the next year expanding their health and their lifestyle. So they'll go through a similar change that I did, facing any health issues, facing any work issues, and basically creating a daily lifestyle that supports them. Cancers. Cancers have spent the last year expanding their emotional base, which is really huge because Cancers all are about emotion. So a lot of Cancers did some profound work in the last year to release old emotional baggage. Cancers have a hard time forgetting when they've been hurt. They've been releasing childhood issues, and they've been expanding their home base. So in some cases relocating, adding another addition to the family. Now that Jupiter moves into Scorpio, Cancers are finally ready for love. And that's a huge thing because with Pluto in their 7th house, Cancers have had a really hard time in relationships since 2009. So with Jupiter in Scorpio, Cancers will once again be falling in love with themselves and likely falling in love either with a creative project or someone else. Leos. Leos have spent the last year expanding their thinking. And Leos tend to be back and forth. They have Libra in the third house. So when it comes to their thinking, they haven't been really steady and rock solid. And this last year, they've come into a strong attitude and a new way of approaching their thoughts. So they worked out their mental issues, basically. Now with Jupiter going to Scorpio, Leos will be expanding their castle. So it's time for a new emotional foundation. They'll be healing from childhood wounds. They'll be healing relationships with family members that might have been broken over the years. And they very may likely move into another house or move into another location. So they're going to get grounded and settled. Virgos. For the last year with Jupiter in Libra, Virgos have been expanding their self-esteem. And that's really a big deal because Virgos are so hard on themselves, okay? They usually do not give themselves the credit that they deserve, and then the world doesn't give them the credit either. So this last year, Jupiter has been helping Virgos build credit and self-esteem. Now that Jupiter moves into Scorpio, Virgos are now going to expand their way of thinking. And that's also pretty big for Virgos. They tend to be very tight-lipped with the way they think. They don't really open up the box. That's because they're so critical. They tend to be a little harsh in their thinking. So in the next year, you're going to see Virgos finally start to open up their thoughts and probably, I hope, end their self-criticism. Libras. Now, Libras have grown tremendously this year. I've known Libras this year that have gotten divorced, changed their career, started a whole new identity with Jupiter in Libra. They've also gotten a lot more courageous than they used to be. Libras used to be very, very passive, but now Libras are actually telling me what they think, and they're not afraid of it. So I've been really proud to see the Libras grow. It's been an ego change, basically, with Jupiter in Libra. Now that Jupiter is moving into Scorpio, Libras will now go out and get the raise they deserve. So they're going to raise their self-esteem, they're going to expand their credibility, and they're going to be moving towards abundance 1 year from now. Scorpios! I'm so happy for the Scorpios, to be honest with you, because last year was hell for them. When Jupiter was in Libra, Scorpios were having to expand their faith and their connection to Holy Spirit. And that was difficult for Scorpios because they see things as kind of black and white. They don't usually see things as gray. So they were really going through a hard time as they were forced to expand their faith and their connection to their higher self rather than focusing on the harshness of reality. Now that Jupiter's in their sign, you're going to see a whole new revitalization of Scorpio. They're going to change their ego, they're going to change their defenses, which usually has been a little over-defensive if you ask me, and they're going to step into their real character and strength. So put your money on Scorpios. They're going to grow like wildfire. Sagittarius. Sagittarius have spent the last year expanding their relationship to the world. So a lot of Sagittariuses were figuring out where do they belong in the world, who are their friends, what title do they want to be, what neighborhood do they want to work in, what status do they want to be in the world. A lot of Sagittariuses really hadn't settled down. They were such travelers and playing everything by the minute. And so in this last year, they finally found their place where they belong. Now that Jupiter is moving into their 12th house in Scorpio, Sagittariuses are going to have to open up and find their faith. So this next year for Sag and Sag risings might be a little difficult because they have to find their faith, they have to release any long-lasting fears that they had, and they need to connect to their higher self and find their spiritual calling. But it is Jupiter, which is their ruling planet, so I think it'll be softer on them in a 12th house transit than it is on any of the other 12 signs because it's their ruling planet. Capricorns. Capricorns have had a really good year, actually. I don't think they were happy when Jupiter first moved into Libra because it was their house of career. So Capricorns are having to change what they do best, all right? Change how they make decisions, change where they go for their power, change how they lead themselves. And most Capricorns I've spoken to are doing much better in their career, and they're very clear on where they're going next. Now that Jupiter is moving to Scorpio, Capricorns will be working on their relationship to the world. So now that you have your career in place, it's basically time for you to go out and market yourself. So a lot of Capricorns will be relocating, getting promotions, finding a new title in the world, and probably finding some new friends as well. So if a Capricorn dumps you as a friend, don't take it personally. They're changing teams right now. Aquarius. Aquarius had kind of a foggy year. A lot of Aquariuses I know were kind of lost in the last year. That's because they were expanding what they believe. And Aquariuses are usually pretty strong about what they believe, so being told to expand and look outside the box, they didn't like that very much. But by the end of the year, most Aquariuses I know have found what they really feel is important and their purpose. Now that Jupiter moves into Scorpio, Aquariuses will have a full year of career good luck. So they're going to move into their career. They're going to move into their leadership. This also includes your legacy. So that would be children. You might decide to have children. You might decide to expand what you're known for at the end of the day. And so Aquariuses are going to have career, growth, and luck for the next year. And then finally, the Pisces. Pisces had a hard time this last year. They were expanding their trust and intimacy issues. And so they had to change where their boundaries are, who they are with intimately. They had to close the door on some people. That's very hard for Pisces. Some Pisces open the door to new solutions. So this was about changing gears for Pisces this last year, and it was hard for them. I spoke to a lot of them. They had a difficult time. Now that Jupiter moves into Scorpio, Pisces are going to be expanding their beliefs. So a lot of Pisces will be traveling, deciding to go to re-educate themselves, and they'll be, at the end of this full year period, they're going to decide what their life's purpose is. So Pisces will be a little foggy in this next 6 months or so, but 1 year from now, I think they'll be very clear on where they're going. And if you know Pisces, that's a big deal. So Jupiter in Scorpio, I think, is going to be a good thing. It'll probably be a little difficult in the first few months, especially as Saturn wraps up in its Sagittarius transit. But by the time we hit 2018, I think Jupiter in Scorpio is going to give everyone the strength and the resources and the information they need to change those emotional boundaries and change those personal comfort zones. And I think in the next year, we're going to see the Earth change like we haven't since 2005. It's been a long time. All right, friends. Well, that wraps up this week's Namaste today. I want to say thank you for tuning in. As you can tell, I'm in this new temporary studio in Denver, Colorado, but we'll be getting our place in here soon. And don't forget, if you want daily guidance, check out my personal Sensei service. I text people 5 times a day. I give them a full menu of what's going on in their life, including Jupiter and Scorpio and lots of extra features. You can try it for just $3.99. Visit me at SeriousJoy.com. Well, I hope you have a fabulous week manifesting your harmony. I'll be back next week with more. Until then, remember, I love you, and to live, love, be.